The Desert's Heartbeat, a story of survival at the Desert Botanical Garden. The invitation. In the heart of the Southwest, there is a place defined by its brutality. An unrelenting sun, a thirst that can last for months. To the casual eye, this is a barren canvas, a wasteland. And right here, in the sprawl of modern Phoenix, amidst the concrete and chaos, sits a silent, steadfast guardian of this secret world. The oasis revealed. This is the Desert Botanical Garden, founded in 1939. It is not just a collection of plants, it is a declaration. A statement that the desert is not merely empty, but exquisitely full. It is home to more than 50,000 desert plants, curated not for show, but for survival. Here, we don't just admire beauty, we study resilience. We learn what it means to live, not in spite of the environment, but because of it. The Saguaros secret. Take the giant saguaro, the very symbol of the Sonoran Desert. A human lifetime is barely enough to witness its maturity. These magnificent columns are not simply water tanks, they are advanced architectural marvels. The vertical ribs, or pleats, act like an accordion. They allow the cactus to expand dramatically in moments of deluge, and contract slowly as the water reserves are used up, minimizing surface area exposed to the sun. Every inch is optimized for existence in the extreme. The thirsty teacher, conservation focus, but the garden's role goes far beyond exhibition. It is a critical center for conservation, a last refuge for species threatened by habitat loss, climate change, and human development. The Desert Botanical Garden is actively cultivating and reintroducing species teetering on the edge of extinction. They are genetic libraries, archiving the blueprints of survival so that future generations will not inherit a silent desert. This is where the narrative shifts from looking backward at evolution, to fighting forward for the future. They are the frontline defenders of a world we often overlook. This garden teaches a profound lesson. That life, no matter how fragile, will always find a way to flourish, provided it has a sanctuary. And here, in the heart of the Sonoran Desert, this sanctuary endures. The Impossible Dreamers, founding. Every sanctuary starts with a revolutionary idea. And this one was born not in an era of plenty, but in the depths of the Great Depression. In 1939, when America was focused on scarcity and survival, a small group of visionary citizens looked at the sprawling Phoenix landscape and saw not a resource to be exploited, but a treasure to be protected. Leading this impossible effort were dedicated individuals: Ruth Baird, the garden's tireless first president, and Gustav Stark, the charismatic Swedish botanist whose passion ignited the project. Their vision was simple and radical: to create a public space where the public could learn about and fall in love with the plants that defined their home. They secured 140 acres of rugged, untouched desert at the foot of the magnificent Papago Buttes. The challenge wasn't just the heat, it was the sheer scope. They were building an institution dedicated to the preservation of life in a place that seemed actively hostile to all life. How do you cultivate a garden where nature itself fights every inch of growth? The very first plants weren't pampered, they were rescued. Stark and his team salvaged desert flora threatened by construction and agriculture, giving them new life here, transforming the garden into a living ark for the Sonoran Desert's most vulnerable inhabitants. The goal was never to tame the desert, but to frame it, to give it a voice it hadn't had before. The early dreamers understood that the greatest threat to the desert was not the climate, but our own indifference. Today, every winding path and every meticulously labeled species is a testament to their foresight. They built a bridge between the wild, ancient desert and the booming, modern city, ensuring that the heart of the Southwest would continue to beat for generations to come. Architects of the apocalypse, Agaves and Yuccas. If the saguaro is the desert's reservoir, the agaves and yuccas are its commandos, compact, armored, and engineered for maximum resource retention. The family of agaves, often mistakenly called century plants, represent one of the most efficient storage strategies in nature. They employ crassulacean acid metabolism, or CAM photosynthesis. Unlike most plants that open their stomata during the day to breathe, the agave opens its pores only at night when temperatures drop. This simple act, breathing only in the dark, is the difference between life and death, minimizing water loss to almost nothing. And then there are the yuccas, cousins in stoicism. Their leaves are fiber-reinforced armor, protecting precious stored water from both predators and the sun. Their survival is built on a tight, symbiotic relationship. Many yucca species depend entirely on a single insect, the tiny yucca moth. The female moth meticulously collects pollen and deposits it on the stigma of a new flower, guaranteeing pollination. In return, she lays her eggs inside the flower, allowing her larva to feed on some of the resulting seeds. It is a biological contract, an agreement so exclusive that neither can survive without the other. But perhaps the most dramatic story belongs to the monocarpic agave, the so-called century plant. It is a lifetime of preparation for one single, spectacular act. For decades, sometimes 20, 30, or even 50 years, it stores energy, slowly building its defense against the elements. Then, in one final, glorious moment, it sacrifices everything. A colossal mast, a flowering stalk towering 30 feet or more, shoots up to release its seeds, often growing up to a foot a day. After this incredible explosion of life, the plant, having fulfilled its sole purpose, collapses. The parent dies, but its genetic legacy is launched into the desert wind. It is the ultimate testament to commitment, life lived entirely in service of the next generation. The great deluge, the monsoon, for months, the desert holds its breath. The relentless heat of summer bakes the Sonoran landscape into a state of suspended animation. Life is not gone, it is simply waiting. Every plant, every creature, is a master of patience, locked down, conserving every drop of moisture. This brutal dormancy ends with a shift in the wind. A tropical air mass begins its slow, inevitable journey north, carrying moisture from the Gulf of California. The atmosphere thickens. The air becomes charged. This is the promise of the monsoon. The storm breaks not as a gentle shower, but as an instantaneous deluge. A tidal wave of moisture hitting parched land. The first drops hit the ground, causing dust to explode into the air. The smell of creosote and wet earth, an odor the desert inhabitants have waited all year for. This is the scent of salvation. In these few, furious hours, the desert transforms from a reservoir of life into a catalyst for it. The deep-rooted cacti and agaves drink greedily, their shallow feeder roots swelling, pulling the water in. But the most remarkable transformation belongs to the ephemeral wildflowers. Their seeds possess a kind of chemical alarm clock, programmed not just to react to moisture, but to react to heavy moisture. They wait for a threshold, a guarantee that the rainfall is substantial enough to sustain them through their entire short life cycle. Within days, the garden becomes a kaleidoscope. The bloom is an explosive, short-lived party, a mad dash to flower, reproduce, and set seed before the moisture vanishes back into the relentless sun. And the animals respond just as urgently. Hidden beneath the hardpan, the couch's spadefoot toad surfaces, having spent 9 months encased in a cocoon of mud. Their survival strategy is to live entirely for the monsoon. They emerge, breed instantly in the temporary pools of water, and then burrow back down, their entire reproductive cycle condensed into a matter of weeks. The energy of life is overwhelming, proving that the desert is not defined by its drought, but by its capacity for spontaneous, breathtaking abundance. This is the heartbeat of the Sonoran Desert, a period of profound patience, interrupted by a moment of explosive, collective gratitude. Scene 8. The digital arc, modern conservation. The challenges of the desert are not static. In the 21st century, the threat of rapid climate change forces the Desert Botanical Garden to evolve its mission from mere preservation to proactive planetary defense. The future of desert life, it turns out, relies on science that is anything but dry. Deep within the garden's grounds lies its quietest, most crucial asset, the seed bank, or the digital arc. This is the ultimate insurance policy. Thousands of species are represented here, collected meticulously from the wild, processed for viability, and frozen. These seeds are suspended in time, often at -20 degrees Celsius, a snapshot of genetic diversity that might otherwise vanish in a changing world. They are not just random collections, they are a targeted effort to capture the widest possible genetic variety within each species, ensuring the raw material for adaptation remains available. But storage is only the first step. The garden's scientists are engaged in vital research, modeling how desert flora will respond to a hotter, drier future. They are the eyes and ears of the Sonoran Desert, monitoring plant health across vast territories. They track phenology, the timing of flowering, fruiting, and dormancy, using remote sensors and citizen science data to understand how climate cues are shifting. This data allows the garden to practice assisted migration. When a species' natural habitat becomes too hostile, scientists can use their banked seeds to propagate new populations and introduce them to cooler, higher elevations, essentially giving them a head start against the heat. The garden becomes a staging ground for nature's future, a place where resilience is not simply studied, but actively engineered. The lessons learned here, in managing the most water-wise plants on the planet, are invaluable to urban planners and conservationists globally. They prove that adaptation is possible, but it requires radical knowledge and relentless effort. The Desert Botanical Garden is not just conserving the past, it is safeguarding the possibilities of the future, one tiny seed at a time. The human connection, culture, art, and knowledge. Ultimately, the Desert Botanical Garden is more than just a scientific laboratory or a genetic archive. It is a vital cultural artery, the place where the booming city of Phoenix comes to reconnect with the landscape that defines it. For the rapidly growing population of the Southwest, the garden acts as a powerful educational hub, demonstrating water stewardship in action. It teaches the principle of living successfully with the desert, rather than fighting against it. Every drip line, every rainwater catchment basin, is a lesson in sustainability that ripples out into every community. The stark geometry and raw power of the desert have always captivated artists. The garden often hosts breathtaking installations, juxtaposing human-made beauty against the slow, enduring art of nature. Glass, metal, and light are set against the backdrop of spines and stone, creating a dialogue between the temporary and the eternal. It is here, where art meets adaptation, that the emotional impact of the desert truly resonates. But the garden's deepest cultural roots extend back millennia, through the knowledge of the O'odham, Pima and Tohono O'odham, and Maricopa peoples. These are the original stewards of the Sonoran Desert, who didn't just survive here, but thrived, seeing the desert not as a foe, but as a generous provider. The garden recognizes this ancient wisdom as critical to its modern mission. Visual. A contemporary Tohono O'odham elder demonstrating the collection of saguaro fruit, bitage, using a long pole, followed by a shot of the fruit being processed into jam or syrup. Narrator. The annual saguaro harvest is a sacred tradition. The sweet, ruby-red fruit, a gift that signals the arrival of the monsoon, was traditionally used to make syrup and wine, and marked the start of the new year. This practice is preserved and celebrated at the garden, connecting visitors to the deep, reciprocal relationship between people and the plants. Visual. Close-ups of crafts. A finely woven basket made from yucca fibers, a medicinal paste derived from creosote. Narrator. This is the heart of ethnobotany, the understanding of how cultures use plants for survival. The yucca provides fiber for textiles and soap. The agave, beyond its life-ending bloom, was roasted for its nutritional core. Even the ubiquitous creosote bush, with its distinct, earthy aroma, serves as an antimicrobial and medicinal remedy. By preserving the plants, the garden preserves the knowledge of how to live well in this extreme environment, knowledge that is more relevant now than ever before, as climate change intensifies. Narrator. The paths here are not just for walking. They are corridors of ancestral memory, teaching us that to conserve the desert is to remember who we are, and how closely our own fate is tied to the resilience of the natural world. Epilogue. The legacy of resilience. The Desert Botanical Garden began as an impossible dream in a hard land. Today, it stands as a testament to the power of vision, patience, and science. It is a mirror reflecting the fundamental lesson of the desert, that the capacity to adapt is the greatest form of power. Here, we have learned that the wilderness we try to escape holds the blueprint for our own sustainability. In a world defined by volatility and change, the plants of the Sonoran Desert offer a quiet, powerful promise. The ark is secure, the archive is open, the lesson of resilience endures.